It's the Jim and Tara Show this is a funny thing. We were asking each other whether we had enough gas in the tank. And that's what we're going to talk about. Gas in the tank, the transition from fossil fuels to EVs, and talk about why we took the tariff off. We mentioned that before. Everybody knows.
But
we had 100%.
I think it's worth mentioning again. The only reason we put tariffs on Chinese cars was to appease the United States in their economic program.
And support
now they've
Elon
betrayed
Musk,
us. We're going
Tesla.
to. And I mentioned a friend saying, why do we have 100% tariffs? I explained why. And he says, why don't we take those tariffs off? I said, we're in the process of doing that because we now have to change our whole philosophy, knowing that our brothers to the south no longer want to be a part of the family. They want a divorce. So we want a divorce because it's opened our eyes to our dependence on them as brothers turns out to be really not smart.
Okay, so remember Trump's whole emphasis on fossil fuels and clean coal and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Remember that I think it was Bush who took off Jimmy Carter's
his
solar panels.
Solar panel.
We know where conservatives and Republicans stand in terms of climate change.
Why, Terry? Because the oil companies and everything support them and give them billions of dollars so they can win and hold power.
Okay.
Where Canada is saying, no, we want friendship with the world. And it's going to open up a lot of markets because we fit the rest of the world's program. We do not fit the American exclusion.
When you say we fit, we need to start talking about the things that Trudeau did to align Canada with source to production to export to market, that we are in alignment with the standards and quality controls in agriculture and materials to the European marketplace and Asia. We are looking to increase diversification of our economy and reduce our dependence on the United States. EVs in Canada. People were saying, oh, look, we spent a lot of money on that EV plant, and where is it? Barrie or where? Somewhere in southern Ontario, Ford was. So these things we're not looking to take away. We're looking to embellish and enhance. We're looking for alternatives, not just lithium, although Canada has a lot of lithium, and although our extraction methods are safer and much cleaner for the environment than the African, which is where, and I don't know if it's the Congo or what country has the lithium, but they use hand laborer, and it's very toxic for the body to be extracting this stuff. So Canada's standards make a big difference, and our marketplace is the world, and the world has higher standards than the U.S.
That's right, and so it makes the flow of products and goods seamless. Which, in other words, you don't have to say to the Americans, if you want to sell, you got to do this, and the other thing, which all costs, which all takes time, and where are they going to do it, and takes checks and balances. But if those checks and balances are already universal, then all of a sudden, if you're selling corn, you know that corn is up to your standard. If you're selling beef, you know that beef is up to the standards of health around the world. And so Canada was wise in that. And I have to say, even going to the, Dewey Decimal System?
The metric system. Yeah, it's the metric system, not the Dewey Decimal. That's for libraries, which is equally good and equally not understood.
Yeah, well, you know what I meant. I didn't say I was really smart.
No, you got it. You knew it was a system.
The idea is even the scientists and everything in the United States are using metric, all the rest of it for measurements and everything to get to the moon. That's what they'll be using. Yep. They won't be using pounds and inches and feet. So that move, which I probably opposed of as a young man.
I forget, what, 70s, 72, something like that?
But it came in, and they were right when they said, oh, no, the people don't like it, will just be dead soon, and it'll be fine. And that's exactly what it is.
We weren't dead soon, but you're thinking of your father's generation, my dad's generation. The older people, they were, at that time, had a difficulty with that transition. But you and I do conversions in my head, so because I'm still not used to.
I'm still not used to it.
Yeah, we still use Fahrenheit.
And it's so funny how much we defended those odd numbers and odd balances and odd everything when the rest of the world was saying, let's just even everything up. It takes this much to be this, that to that. Like our dollar, I always loved our dollar.
Yeah.
100 pennies is $1,
100 pennies, yeah. Also, I don't know where you were going with this, except to say that EV, we're still looking for electronic, and to make it political and bring it back home, decisions to support the transition from fossil fuels to electrical power is either, if you're on the liberal, center, left, you're saying, yes, we have to do this because we believe climate is impacted by burning fossil fuels, and CO2 is a problem gas, and we need to stop and get off the proverbial Simpsonian teat of fossil fuels. But unfortunately, fossil fuels is in the pocketbook of politicians like Danielle Smith in Canada, in Alberta, and good clean coal of Trump and his cronies, and the Texas oil drills, baby drill into the protected parks and services of the United States. Trump wanted to sell off, despite environmental protection, sell off what we would have called crown land, but national lands, and let companies drill. We want to transition. Conservatives, and I met with two friends of mine who said Carney's goal was to be carbon free by 2035. They are determined they will make sure they buy their brand new fossil burning car in 2035 so that they can carry on
polluting the world.
But
there's an accidental arrogance, and I'm not saying it's your normal arrogance. But you said you have siblings who don't believe that the glaciers are melting. They don't believe that there's too much carbon in the atmosphere. They just don't believe that. Stop and think for a minute. The rest of the world does believe that. So who are you in the mix of all this? If one nation under the sun, whose financial backing comes from fossil fuels, states that there's no fossil fuel problem, who are you really going to believe? Those who are trying to transition for what reason? No reason? Other countries have oil. Other countries have all kinds of access to all the things that will ruin the world as well. Now, I have a question for you. We're told that China, why should we cut back? Because China's not cutting back. But who is the leading country in solar power?
China.
In wind power, China. So they are doing something. So are we getting fed misinformation, a lie? Because if they're the leaders in this technology and the use of it, obviously they're turning away from fossil fuel.
Turning is the good word, because that's a process.
Yeah.
They're not off it, and they are still the number one coal-sourced power consumption and polluter. So two things are true. They are the number one in solar, number one in windmills, but they are transitioning from coal, but they're still a big polluter. So, but they're doing something, as opposed to taking the solar panels off the White House and saying, there's no problem here.
Well, you see, that's like saying, if you're going to break the law driving down the road and go 100 down to 35, why don't I?
Yeah.
Well, no, I should go the speed limit and keep it safe for the neighborhood, and you eventually, hopefully, will come around and slow your car down. So the same idea over in China, it just got me thinking that, at least they've got a population, they've got a government different than ours. And I think a government that's almost smarter than ours. And I'll tell you why, because we know better. The scientists and everybody in the United States knows the truth. And nobody's speaking it because everybody's buckling under the pressure of the big donors, which means... I don't know.
It just means money buys power.
Well, what is really happening is they're looking after themselves, and they're not looking after the future.
And they're looking after the wealthy, which is themselves. Yep. So the 1% is getting richer, and the rest of us are...
Well, a perfect example of that, Terry, is, they're going to take all the chlorine out of the water and let the kids' teeth rot. Because don't forget, there's a history of rotting teeth in North America, in the world. I mean, I think Africa's the only place that they don't have that. Mm-hmm. Now, they're going to do that because they will have fluoride treatment or have all their teeth ripped out and have all new teeth put in.
That's right.
But that poor family that can barely get by, and now that their insurance rates have doubled, they're not going to be able to get anything. So it is a real look after me, myself, and I, and my family, my oligarchs, and screw the poor person.
Wow.
The rest of the world is not going down that same path.
That's a heck of a sad tale you weave there, my friend. The rest of the world is not going down the path of destruction. We're on the eve of destruction.
We're on the eve of destruction.
Nice exit. Here we go. Jim and Terry Show signing off. Bye-bye for now.